Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into one of the most challenging and often misunderstood topics in the Bible: sacrifice. When we read passages, especially in the Old Testament, about burnt offerings, the language can be jarring. We see descriptions of animal sacrifices and even a few deeply disturbing stories that involve the potential for human sacrifice. It raises a tough question. Why would a loving God command such practices? Let's explore this together, looking at the historical context, the theological meaning, and how the entire concept is ultimately transformed. First, it's crucial to understand the world in which the ancient Israelites lived. They were surrounded by cultures and nations that all practiced sacrifice as a core part of their worship. For them, offering something valuable to a deity was a universal way to show honor, seek favor, or atone for wrongdoing. The key difference was why and to whom the Israelites were making their offerings. Unlike their neighbors who often used sacrifices, including human ones, to appease angry, unpredictable gods, Israel's system was designed by God to teach them specific spiritual truths. It was a structured system meant to set them apart, not to have them blend in. So, what was the purpose of animal sacrifice in the Old Testament? It wasn't because God enjoyed the smell of burning flesh. Despite the poetic phrase, "a pleasing aroma," that's a human way of describing something that is acceptable and brings pleasure to God in a spiritual sense. The sacrifices served several key functions. The most important one was atonement for sin. The book of Leviticus says, "The life of a creature is in the blood, and I have given it to you to make atonement for yourselves on the altar." The idea was that sin leads to death, a spiritual separation from a holy God. The death of a blameless animal was a substitute, a physical representation of the seriousness of sin and the cost required to restore the relationship with God. It was a constant, tangible reminder that sin has consequences. These sacrifices were also a form of worship and thanksgiving. A person might bring a peace offering or a thank offering to express gratitude to God for a blessing, a good harvest, or the birth of a child. It was a way of giving back a portion of what God had provided, acknowledging Him as the source of all good things. Think of it as an act of devotion. By giving up something valuable, a healthy animal from their flock, the worshiper was demonstrating their commitment and putting God first in their lives. It was never meant to be a heartless, mechanical ritual. The prophets repeatedly criticized people who went through the motions of sacrifice, but whose hearts were far from God. The prophet Samuel famously said, "To obey is better than sacrifice." The inner attitude was always more important than the outward act. Now, let's address the most difficult part of this topic: human sacrifice. The Bible is overwhelmingly and explicitly against human sacrifice. It's condemned as a detestable practice of the surrounding nations. Laws in Leviticus and Deuteronomy strictly forbid it. So, why are there stories that seem to contradict this? The most famous is the binding of Isaac in Genesis 22. God commands Abraham to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. This is a deeply unsettling story. But the crucial point is that God stops him. The angel of the Lord calls out, "Do not lay a hand on the boy." The story is not about God wanting human sacrifice. It's a profound test of Abraham's faith and trust. Would he trust God even when the command seemed to contradict everything he knew about God's promises? The story ends with God providing a ram as a substitute. The ultimate lesson is that God Himself provides the sacrifice. He doesn't want human death. He wants our complete trust, and He will provide the way for atonement. Another challenging story is Jephthah's vow in the book of Judges. Jephthah makes a rash vow to God that if he is victorious in battle, he will sacrifice whatever comes out of his house to greet him. Tragically, his daughter is the first to greet him. The Bible records this event, but it doesn't condone it. It's presented as a tragedy resulting from a foolish, human-made vow. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of making reckless promises to God, and highlights a period in Israel's history when, as the book of Judges says, everyone did what was right in their own eyes. It's a description of human failure, not a prescription for divine worship. This brings us to the ultimate turning point in the entire biblical narrative: Jesus Christ. The New Testament explains that the entire system of animal sacrifice was a foreshadowing, a temporary system pointing towards something greater. The letter to the Hebrews puts it beautifully, explaining that the blood of bulls and goats could never truly take away sins permanently. They were a yearly reminder, an ongoing IOU for a debt that couldn't be fully paid. They prepared people to understand the need for a perfect, final sacrifice. This is why Jesus is called the Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world. His death on the cross is presented as the ultimate, once-and-for-all sacrifice. He was the perfect, sinless offering. Unlike the animal sacrifices that had to be repeated over and over, his sacrifice was sufficient for all people, for all time. He fulfilled the entire sacrificial system. He was the substitute that the ram in the story of Abraham and Isaac pointed to. He was the ultimate fulfillment of God's promise to provide the atonement himself. After Jesus' death and resurrection, the temple sacrifices were no longer necessary. The curtain in the temple, which separated people from the holiest place, was torn in two, symbolizing that through Jesus' sacrifice, everyone now has direct access to God. So, what does sacrifice look like for followers of God today? It's no longer about animals or burnt offerings. The Apostle Paul writes in Romans 12, "Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship." Our sacrifice today is a spiritual one. It's about dedicating our lives, our talents, our resources, our choices to honoring God. It's about living a life of love, service, and obedience, motivated by gratitude for the ultimate sacrifice that was made for us. It's a call to die to our own selfishness and to live for God and for others. This is the pleasing aroma that God desires from us now, a life lived in faith, hope, and love. In summary, the sacrificial system in the Old Testament was a divinely given tool for its time. It taught crucial lessons about the seriousness of sin, the need for atonement, and the holiness of God, all while pointing forward to a greater reality. The difficult narratives, like the binding of Isaac, are not endorsements of human sacrifice, but profound tests of faith that reveal God's character as a provider. Ultimately, the entire system finds its complete fulfillment and conclusion in the person and work of Jesus Christ, who became the perfect sacrifice, making it possible for us to be in a right relationship with God. Today, our response is to offer our very lives as living sacrifices, an ongoing act of worship and gratitude. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this complex but incredibly important topic. I hope this brought some clarity and deeper understanding. If you found this helpful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. We'd love to have you as part of our community. See you in the next video.